when their application went through for only 155 feet to ensure that that was adequate for them. You, people of this board, and people in this community have told us this is a done deal and we might as well go home. We do not believe this is a done deal. And those of you who are sitting on the board who will be running for office in the fall are going to find that out, maybe the hard way.
John Conway, and I apologize for speaking up earlier. I'm still not used to the conduct of these meetings. Two things. You discussed the trash problem on the roadsides in the area. I think that's a common problem across the state as the laws for disposal are changing. One suggestion is that it might be possible to involve the community a little bit more in that effort at minimal or no cost to the town in pursuing some type of an adopt a highway concept. I offer that as a suggestion that I think has been successful in some other areas. Second item is on the moratorium. We keep getting apparently confused and bottled up with the issue of the one cellular tower that's proposed over by Pierce Drive and towers in general. It's my understanding that right now, adjacent to your property, under the current zoning, a tower could be put up in a similar manner to the one on Pierce Drive. It doesn't have to be a cellular tower, it could be a public radio station, what have you, okay? Our zoning is inadequate. I think the town board members have acknowledged that there's problems with the zoning. It needs to be updated, it's out of date. We're doing it now. All a moratorium does is provide you time to update the zoning so that you can regulate the towers, all towers in the town, any way you choose. That amount of regulation may be minimal, maybe not much different than what we have now. But I'm very concerned after our previous public meeting where you heard a lot of feedback from the town about towers in general, not just the cellular tower on Pierce Drive, and discussion about a moratorium, that you weren't willing to pursue that option on some reasonable time schedule. It's our understanding now that, as Cindy said, you consider it a done deal, this particular tower, and that's fine maybe, but I don't understand now why we're not willing to address the issue of towers in general. Claudia, you said at the last meeting, why are we in such a hurry? There's no application on file for a tower at this time. You were correct, but now there is a week later or 2 weeks later an application on file. And a month from now there may be an application on file for another tower someplace else in the town. So we have to move on this issue, even if whether it's too late to have any effect on the tower on Pierce Drive is really irrelevant. That may be a subject for debate. There may be differences of opinion on that, but I'm confused with why you don't want to pursue a zoning change based on a moratorium for a time period, whether it's 90 days, 120 days, or 6 months, whatever time it takes to get the zoning updated to a standard that's acceptable to the town board, to the planning board, to the zoning board, to the public, to do your job in terms of serving the public. And I'd like to hear some feedback on that because the behaviors exhibited since the last meeting would indicate, as far as I'm concerned, you have no interest in updating the zoning in terms of towers. Which I don't understand because you own land, you live in this town, and it could happen in your backyard right now. So I'd be curious to hear your position on that.
Yes.
My name is Colleen Scott. Howard, I wanted to tell you that what I asked you about the meeting was a direct quote from Mr. Dunsmore. So you're either calling me a liar, or you are calling Mr. Dunsmore a liar.
No.
Patty came home very upset because of the comment that you and your wife made to her downtown. And I just want to clear this up because you can ask Mr. Warner, because he went over the next day and asked Roger about it.
Well, you didn't quote Mr. Dunsmore at the last meeting.
Yes, but I told you Patty was upset because of what you said. You can't go around, Howard, saying things and making your own little agenda.
You have no idea what I said. You weren't
Yes,
there.
I do.
And I talked to Roger
Are
myself.
you calling Patty a liar?
I'm not calling anybody a liar. Come on, let's be real here. I presented to them my concern that maybe the planning board didn't follow some proper procedures and they better check it out before they proceed with construction, is what I said. I did not tell them I was personally going to tear their building down if they proceeded.
That's not what I said.
Yes, that's what you said.
You told Tricia that she had better watch out and not build that building because it probably wasn't legal and they would have to tear it down. And number two, I'd like to know, I understand that you people are upset about this tower. I probably wouldn't like it in my backyard either. But I want to know how many of you people sitting here own cellular phones?
One.
How can you fight against something?
Because they got social.
How can you guys
Yeah,
fight
we got a
against
root
something
company
that you
like
have?
Cellular One that just comes in and pushes people around. It's a done deal, and they don't really give a hoot about anybody else. So if you don't own a phone and you don't really seem to be informed about it, then I just sit down.
I just think that that's a valid question. You can't fight something that you own.
Jean Conway. I just would like to draw a parallel, I guess, between, and I hate to pick on the poor Dunsmores again, but the fact that they wanted to put in their indoor archery range and expand their business, and that was an issue that brought to light something that was sorely missing in our zoning ordinance, and that was a recreational business use. And when we did it for them, we weren't doing it just for them, we were doing it for the entire community. I would say that this situation is analogous, wouldn't you?
I think that is where there is a misunderstanding between you and the board. What I thought you were asking, and so did other people on the board, was to have a moratorium so that the Cellular One tower could be stopped. We had a meeting with Dennis, and from all the questions that were asked of him, it seemed to be that that would not be a reasonable avenue for the town to go into, for the town board to do that. I don't want to speak for him because you slightly misquote a lawyer, they have a heart attack. You know, you can get the exact reasons for his positions from him. But I did not get from you that you were concerned about not just this, but also other towers, and what if this was not applicable to Pierce Drive, that you're still concerned about a moratorium for other possible projects. And that is what I was referring to, that we talked about at zoning update meeting. And I said, well, okay, it doesn't seem to be applicable to the Pierce Drive problem. Is this something we want to have a moratorium so we can look into this about other towers? And nobody expressed an interest in pursuing it. I do not have a problem with looking into...
What about right now? You know, how do the rest of you feel about it? We have no idea. Between the last meeting and now, none of us have really been asked for our input, you know? We're not working together here at all. And it seems to me, it's only my perception, that you're stonewalling or hiding. That's my perception. I'd really like to know how all of you feel.
The legal advice that we got was that it wasn't appropriate to proceed for this Pierce Drive problem. I have no problem at all with getting public input and deciding if we want a moratorium in general, knowing that it probably won't affect the problem on Pierce Drive. It's two questions.
Well, and I guess that kind of brings us back a little bit. It certainly could affect the problem on Pierce Drive because, as Cindy read in the letter, usually a moratorium is enacted with an application pending. That's why usually a moratorium is brought up. Did you understand that when she read it? I think you gave them copies of the letter.
I gave you copies, and she's a lawyer, and she doesn't like to be misquoted either.
So I guess I would suggest that you read this. The case law is also with it as well.
I've already read it, and Dennis gave us, I understood there was a time period, and that we have two different attorneys. I
I mean,
believe
with all
to
due
give us
respect,
that
he is
data.
the town attorney, I understand it. This lady is a zoning specialist. I just want to offer that. I also have two other points I'd like to make. Claudia, you mentioned also, this had nothing to do with the tower, that you were going to get together with Chuck Sessler, Janet LaSalle, and Faye Sanford. I'd like to know what the purpose of that meeting is and where things stand at this point.
Okay, it was basically, we need to decide exactly, if there are any, to begin with, if there are any questions among any of the board members about any of the details of exactly how we should go through with using the data that we have collected, any legal ramifications, everything. Howard said he had some questions he didn't feel were answered. We are looking towards doing a realignment of all non-industrial parcels, which it's a semantics problem. A reval means you redo the entire town to a set different value. A realignment of a property class means that you are realigning this property class to make corrections of it within itself, but you are not redoing the entire town. The thing that would cause people's taxes to go berserk is if we revaled and included the industrials. A realignment of a property class, which could be all classes that are non-industrial, would take out any inequities that exist between different individuals in the town without having this tremendous tax impact. It would just be minor adjustments by how each personal individual related to their neighbors. And so we're looking at the correct procedure. What seems to have been the consensus from different phone conversations that I have had with Janet and Chuck Sessler about this is to optimize the process for everybody in the town, because there are people that are building things right now, is that the meeting with Chuck Sessler's people take place near the end of the year, so everybody's construction for what is already existing and what has happened during the year, they get the opportunity to discuss with them, argue, or get explanation, or whatever the situation seems to be, of why they came up with that assessment. They would get that process, and of course, once you get past that, you would still be open to the grievance process, which at that time you would also know where everybody else's assessment stands. Right now, it's the equivalent of work papers on each individual place. You could try to compare yourself to somebody else, but what you don't know is that they're going to be able to successfully change their assessment. So then people would be able to go through the grievance process later to compare themselves to their neighbors once, so everybody would have two opportunities if they believe their property is incorrectly assessed, which of course means too high. Nobody complains if they think it's too low. Before it would affect anybody's taxes from that action. So we want to make sure we have all the information, so every base is covered. We're doing things in a way that optimize the information to benefit the people. It requires no extra cost.
Okay. I guess, and my third point is, there seems to be a real lack of vision for this recreation plan. Yeah, you're putting the cart before the horse here. And are you looking to attract leagues to come to this town? Is that what you're looking for?
I'll respond to Gene if I could. First of all, on the park issue, no, we're not looking to do that. We're just looking for a place for the kids that live in this town to go and have some social activities, basically, yeah. On the...
Doesn't sound that way.
No, I know it. The moratorium, though, that I read last month, at our meeting, Claudia, does not mention cellular one at all. It distinctly says, request a moratorium on communication towers, that's it. And that's all that was discussed at the meeting before with our attorney. Do you not recall Jim saying that he would not want to have to go to court to defend this town on this issue because they're going to single out cellular one as the reason that we did this? And he didn't want to go on record as saying that wouldn't be his reason for doing it. And I said, well, I have no problem going to court and saying that it's because of cellular towers in general, not cellular one. He was afraid that they would say that we're singling them out, and I was not. So I was pushing this issue at the last meeting for towers in general, not cellular one. I don't care about cellular ones. That's already in the process. If we can hold it up and adjust or address that, fine. But I'm looking to address it in our zoning is what I'm looking for general towers. And I don't know why you keep bringing it up. I think you're trying to dodge the issue with me on this and dodge the issue with them. Okay, enough said on that. The taxes that Jeannie just talked about. Okay, the revale, everyone was concerned about the impact, mostly because of the industry. Well, that's not going to change whether we do the revale or not. The impact from the industries is already going to affect us, is it not? No matter what we do now, that's going to already affect our taxes.
No.
What do you mean no?
No.
You mean Miller Brewery is not going to happen like we heard?
There is a difference between a negotiated lowering of someone's assessment.
I'm not talking about the assessment. I'm talking about the impact from Miller's assessment and the other industry's assessment. That's going to happen no matter what. Am I wrong?
You're wrong.
Why am I wrong?
Because a total revale makes it so that instead of gradually over a period of time in stages, that the assessment is lowered, which of course means that other classes of assessments would pay a higher tax to make up the difference of these people who were overassessed, the industry that was overassessed. All of it would happen in 1 year. It does not allow for growth to eat up the difference so that you never really feel what your taxes would be.
If it occurs. If it doesn't occur, it will slowly be phased in.
It's occurring every day.
Yes, but it's going to be slowly phased in.
Right.
Okay, so it is going to affect us. Maybe not all in 1 year, but over a 5-year period, I believe it was.
Well, that doesn't even take them down to where they believe their assessment is.
Okay, but it is slowly going to take place, correct? Taxes are going to change next year, no doubt, right?
Not significantly, but not based
Around
upon
5
our...
to 7%.
Well, when are we going to know what is significant and what isn't? I saw the records from before and it doubled everything. Now, that was based on an $80 million assessment for Miller's, which we know isn't going to be 80 million, at least we hope not. It's going to be something higher for now and gradually go down to the 80, 60 million mark in time. Is that correct?
It's not correct. What we are doing is negotiating this every single year based upon the circumstances that prevail. We have a very good neighbor in Miller Brewing in that they are willing, very willing to negotiate on this issue every single year.
So what is the assessment for next year?
Right now, it has been dropped marginally.
Well, what is marginally?
It will affect the school taxes and the town and county taxes for next year. I don't have these numbers right in front of me.
A ballpark idea. I know there were
Around 5 to 7%.
5 to 7%.
Yes.
Of their assessed value is going to go down.
Correct.
That your taxes would go up.
That everybody's taxes would go down.
You as the I did not mean that your assessment solely was going to take the brunt of Miller's. No, I did not mean that.
And everyone said, I'm sorry your taxes are going up. Well, I'm not alone in this. I just want to make that clear.
You as the general humanity, Howard. Part of why this isn't affecting things and it is confusing things is part of what made the agreement with Miller work was semantics. Their assessment is based at approximately 10%. The average homeowner's is based at 5%.
When you say semantics, you're referring to not calling it the homestead option. Is that correct?
Yeah, just wait a minute. Now, it is illegal to intentionally charge people at different percentages of value. Okay? So, the way the agreement with Miller's was worked out is they will not concede that they are worth more than $60 million. However, the assessors are not willing to concede that they are worth less than $120 million. The way we are getting around this is that they're saying, okay, well, you're taxing us at 10% and we're going to get down to $60 million after 5 years. The assessors are saying, no, we're treating you fairly and you're going to be down to $120 million after 5 years. The beauty of it is they're both the same number. 5 years from now, we can work out the difference between the 60 and the 120 and whatever changes have happened in between. And at the same time, it's safeguarding the town because so much assessment is still left on Miller's. But at the same time, they are getting a reduction in their taxes. And yes, it will have an effect on the people in the town of 5 to 7% a year for 5 years, assuming no growth. If there is growth, then it will be less.
And we're talking Miller Brewery, how about the other industries and the utilities?
Compared to Miller's, their impact is so minor, it's not anything to lose any sleep over. Of course, you want to have everybody's assessment correct and get, so you can keep the general rate down as low as possible, but it doesn't throw the taxes of everybody in the town as greatly as Miller because they pay half the tax in the town right now.
So you're saying that we can pretty much guarantee it won't be more than 10% next year then, right?
From the break they were given. The choice being, if the assessors could not have worked out a deal with Miller's, they could have sued us because they were overassessed and gotten their full correction, all 1 year, not just down to where they'll be in 5 years, but perfectly down to where they should be. And they also could sue us for back taxes and get money as a refund because they were overassessed. That's why this is such a good deal. They're not going to sue. They're not going to try and get money back for being overassessed. And it's a gradual phase-in, allowing for growth. We are in one of the targeted areas for growth by the county. And I hope, considering the job situation, it's accurate that it's going to work, because it would be nice if there were more jobs available for people. And then that will make it so there are other parcels paying more. They're vacant land, for example, right now. Instead, they'll have commercial or industrial properties on them that will make it so that even though we correct Miller, the homeowner does not feel it. Time is on your side when you're in a situation like this. And what we're trying to do is maximize the amount of time, at the same time keeping ourselves out of where we will get into having to make it up all at once because we are moving too slow.
And the bottom line is, you do not think that our taxes are going to be increased any more than 10% because of all this next year?
Correct.
I would say that was a fair statement.
And at the same time, we are maintaining a good relationship. The first conversations with Miller, they were very negative about the future, and because they feel that we are trying to be a good neighbor to them also, they are even talking about possible expansion, which would make it so they wouldn't need as much of a reduction if they expand.
And then the other thing is, before the next tax roll is released, we are going to use the information from the data collection to equalize
All non-industrial.
non-industrial properties.
Yes.
And you're confident that there's a way to do that by using semantics to sidestep the homestead option and not call it that, call it something else, and succeed with that, right?
Yes. You don't want a homestead, that would make everybody,
The homestead option does have something to do with it, Charlie, because the homestead option is an option where you can assess industries and residences different.
You have to drive all industry and all business out of town. Charles Smart. You were here, Howard, when they explained the homestead option.
Homestead option, Charlie, don't
Well, well, it has nothing to do with it. They're not connected.
Yes, they are.
No, it's
Because
not.
that's what a homestead
No,
option does.
no,
It
a homestead
separates
option,
industry
no,
and residential.
no. A homestead option is something, is an assessment method which is chosen and used by the town, and
That separates industrial from residential.
absolutely. And
That's
what-
what I said.
No, wait, no, it doesn't separate.
it separates residential and non-residential.
Right.
That includes
Yes.
Howard Rose's commercial sign shop.
Yes.
That
I
includes
realize that, and utilities.
vacant land. That includes everything.
Food.
Your taxes then would jump to take up for Miller.
Right, I'm not proposing
That's what we
that.
don't
I'm
wanna
just
do.
saying that's what we're trying to avoid. Isn't that what I said? We're trying to avoid the homestead option by using semantics.
Howard, no.
No, a homestead option is something that
Homestead option's totally separate and different.
the homestead option is not something that leaps out and grabs you. That's something that you opt to do.
Well, the city of Oswego is suing for something very similar, so you might want to check the case with them. The homestead option type issue with Niagara Mohawk and the utilities up there.
This part of the agenda is public comment. I'd like to return to public comment. Dr. Kestner.
My name's Alan Kester. I'm glad to hear, Howard, that they let you see these new revaluation that's supposed to
They're
take
supposed to
effect.
let you 2 weeks
They
after-
will not. Faye Sanford, I believe it was Faye Sanford. He has a long face, gray hair. He was over here at grievance day. I asked him specifically, may I see, no, he said, may I see the evaluation of my house that is supposed to take effect next year? He said no. So,
Well, why is that, Claudia? Because
Well,
Janet said
I
in
like-
2 weeks we'd be able to see it, everyone would be able to see it.
Faye is concerned about doing things by the exact procedure so that we aren't having a problem. He has not had an opportunity to meet with Janet and Chuck to make sure that we're doing this in the right way. So he didn't want to do anything that would jeopardize that. That's part of what we'll work out at the meeting that we have with Janet and Chuck about exactly how we're going to handle everything.
so we'll get some
Unfortunately,
information on
Janet,
this in the foreseeable future.
yeah, in the very foreseeable
Good,
future.
good. Tell
Unfortunately,
Mr.
Janet-
Sanford that, okay? Tell Mr. Sanford that we are allowed to see it whenever we're allowed to see it. I appreciate
When
that.
did you ask to see it?
Grievance day. I was over here grieving my taxes.
Oh.
Was I the only one here? I came in, there was nobody here. I come running in late because I was working and nobody was here. I spent half an hour. I didn't know who everybody was on there. I told them that I had randomly selected 50 properties in the town of Volney from the 1987 tax rolls, which was where my house was before I bought it. And of these 50, in 1993, 24 had gone up an average of 10%. One had gone down. It was Faye Sanford. I know you're not going to believe it. His went down. He's an assessor, for those of you who don't know who he is. And the other 25 stayed the same. I appealed to them that the day I bought my house on the 1st of March, bad timing. Bingo. The assessment comes out, and I called them up and said, they raised it 17.7%. And you've all heard this story before. I know. I hope I'm not boring you. But some people haven't. This was what I told the grievance committee. I had this all written out. My taxes went up 17.7% in 1988. So I've been paying. I've been paying 1993 taxes since 1988. And I don't mind. I just want the rest of you to do it. That's all. I want the rest of you to do it. So I agreed. I told him, look, I don't even want you to increase my tax from before I bought the house 5% like everybody else. You can raise me 10% like you did half of. I don't know. That's fine. But don't raise me 17.7%. And then I told him what I thought my assessments should be. And about 3 days later, I got a real nice letter in the mail, forum letter, certain, the state forum for replying to grievances, and it said denied. And then down below that, it says for the following reasons, and it list has about 27 boxes there. I mean, they got a lot of reasons for denying your grievance. And I'm looking, and looking, and looking, and looking, I turn it over and look, and nothing's marked. I looked at who signed it, and I thought, well, you know, this guy is, I don't know what they call them, grievance committee member or something like that. They're brought on board for 1 day, and we pay them money, and they make a decision, and then they send me a letter, and then what do? As there, I have 25 days to go to small claims court. I don't know if Miller's going to sue you or not. But I am. What I really want to know is, can this assessment board or whoever these people are, who's over them? Who can I appeal to and say, what's the reason for denial? Or shall I just go to small claims court? I just want to thrash this out. Give me a reason. See? Now, if I go to small claims court, and they may throw up their hands and say, well, they didn't give you a reason, get out of here. I don't know. But I think there's some due process that's lacking here. I really do, and I think there's due process lacking that is part of this whole controversy down to the tower. I have another thing here. Claudia, you were commiserating that you ask questions and don't get answers. Welcome to the club. We ask questions all the time. We get nodded at. We get nodded. I'm not going to turn in my I don't have a 9X phone. I have a car phone. I'm not going to turn it in now. It was in the car when I bought it, and it's nice to have, and I use it. I must say, the reception downtown Fulton, I can't call my wife. It's out Mount Pleasant Church. I get lousy reception. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to make them put up a new tower just so I get better reception. But on the other hand, I don't want to do away with my phone either. I think that. Can anybody answer my question about what do I do? Do I just go to small claims court or well, where's it? Somebody's supposed to tell me why they denied it, or you don't have to do that.
We can't tell you why you were denied it.
You have to call the chairman of the grievance board. Apparently, maybe a carbon slipped out or something.
Are they still functioning as a... I don't think it has a tight name there. Okay, well, I'll check that out. I should, I just, you know how I feel about this town park, and, but I feel that Ross Perot is always saying that, that we're the boss, the elected, the people who are the electorate are the boss. And that's neither here nor there, but I voted for Ross Perot just to get the attention of these other people, these Republicans and Democrats, that there are some people here who aren't happy with what the Republicans and the Democrats are doing in Washington. But the whole thing that he does say nice is that he thinks, now this may be all PR for all I know, he's not the president, and I think if he was the president, he probably wouldn't be saying these egalitarian things. But he does say that the elected officials are the servants of the people. That's why you're called public servants. I was a public servant when I was in the Army. I considered myself one, okay? But I'm not in the Army anymore. So I don't have to. But you should be doing what we want. And these people here, we're missing Seinfeld. I mean, how many people in here watch Seinfeld? Okay, that's a good amount. We're missing Seinfeld because we came here tonight because we are interested in what happens in our little town here. We're interested in what goes on in the government. We're interested in how our money is spent. We're interested in all those things. And we come here and we tell you how we feel. Okay? And you say 3 to 2. 3 to 2. 3 to 2. And as I said before, you know, why should I come to this meeting next Tuesday and listen to Mr. Cox? Why should I do that? There's no reason for me to do that. He's got my money now. He's got my money. And I think that, I don't know if you were caucusing up there to try to, you know, table this or whatever. I had hoped that you were. I hoped that you were, but I was wrong. And, well, this isn't the first time that you, as a board, as a whole, have not responded to the wishes of the electorate.
My name is Linda Sarata. I haven't met this man before tonight, but I have the same problem he has. I need to know, he has to go to small claims court. What do I have to do? What do my neighbors have to do to get a moratorium on the construction of new towers in Volney? That's what I would,
no problem at all with looking into that.
so we can vote on this tonight.
I don't think that even requires a vote, just to move on.
Not draft the resolution. I will,
Need a resolution? We have a resolution.
No, we don't.
I will, Pat, I will not have any resolution on which our town attorney does not agree that it is in the town's best interest to do. And until he says that, we are not going to have a moratorium.
Why isn't he here?
That's right.
He was here at a meeting and which we did not, he put it this way, there is a possibility that if you pass a moratorium, you can have legal action brought against you by Cellular One. That is a possibility. It is a possibility, and until he makes a recommendation that we pass a moratorium, if his recommendation is not to, I will follow his recommendation.
Excuse me, Mr. McFarland, my name is Bob Humphrey, and I was at the zoning update meeting. I was sitting next to Dennis Hawthorne Jr. as he explained the whole issue of moratorium, the whole question of priority over the applicant, which there was no application at the time, as Mrs. Smart seemed to indicate. There were no applications at the time. There were no towers before the board. And it was clearly stated by Mr. Hawthorne that it was up to the board to take action, that it was totally your prerogative to do what you wanted to do. And if you are more concerned with a suit from Cellular One than you are a suit from your own constituents, then I don't know what you're sitting up there for.
As a elected official, I have equal responsibilities. The town has a large lawsuit against it because proper procedures were not followed a couple of years ago, and we may be a big loser in that. So I have an obligation both ways. And if our town attorney recommends that we can proceed with a moratorium, then we can. But I don't think he will.
You're telling me right now that he told the board that he recommended against the moratorium?
No, I did not say that.
That's why I stood there.
What I am saying is, if he recommends that we can proceed with a moratorium safely, I will go along with that.
What was his recommendation? I was at that meeting, Mr. Grinshaw was at the meeting.
You can state it if you wish.
Mr. Warner, I'd like you to speak up as well. You were the person running the zoning update meeting. What exactly was Mr. Hawthorne's recommendation to the board?
His recommendation was, it was up to the board.
Thank you.
The biggest thing I always brought up about this towers was because we were dealing with public utilities. To clarify, is it a public utility or isn't it? And it's still questionable. The state attorney, and I got his name because I talked to him, Peter Colino, and Dennis Hawthorne were supposed to talk because there's a case involved, and of course, according to Mr. Colino, that because one case, it is not considered a public utility. And they can be, these communication towers can be restricted where they're gonna locate.
Thank you.
Mr. Hawthorne made that clear. And I haven't heard back from either party on the decision, but the state attorney wanted to talk to our attorney and explain it to him because it was lengthy on these towers, communication towers, not just cellular, communication towers.
Mr. McFarland, I'd like to know why you won't vote on a public hearing about a moratorium. If you are so honestly concerned about the citizens, why will you not tonight set a public hearing so that all citizens of Volney who are interested can come forward and tell you how they feel? If Mr. Rowley wants to come and tell us why the tower should be allowed in Volney, fine. If you want to tell us why you think they should be allowed anywhere or nowhere, fine. Why can't you vote tonight on a public hearing? It does not guarantee anything. It does not guarantee a moratorium. It does not stop Cellular One. The only thing it gets is the public input. You've told us you cared about that, Claudia. You have had a month to find out what the procedure is for that. You told us that at the last meeting. You told us that you could find out about how to enact a moratorium. You've had that same month, and we're still sitting here. You can't even agree to listen to the public about this issue.
You have a misunderstanding about the way this would happen. We need the exact resolution that we would want to pass before you have a public hearing. If, however, you just wanted a public meeting that was not a public hearing, you can have that before you have the resolution. But to have a public hearing that would be part of the ordinance process with the town board, you have to have the exact resolution that you would pass that would become the ordinance before you have the public hearing.
A month ago, we asked you for that. Why haven't you acted on it in good faith? Why have you sat there for a month? You know it's legal, you know it can be done, you know 86 people in this town want it, and you haven't done anything, except wait until tonight to say, we're sorry again, we can't do it because we don't have it written down yet, and we can't hold a public hearing because it's not proper procedure, and mumbo-jumbo us to death. Why?
And now we have an application, and now we still don't have our lawyer at the meeting. Your
Why?
lawyer. Why? What do we gotta do, hit you over the head?
You don't understand in their backyard, then
You're not
get
listening.
smart.
John Conway, what do we have to do to get the resolution you need to have a public meeting?
Hearing.
A hearing.
Would
What
you
do we
like our
have to
attorney
do?
to
Do we have
draw
to
it
do
up?
it?
There is board. You want an answer? Or you just want
You want to move forward, so what do we have to do?
It seemed to be the question that you were answering. Apparently, there was a misunderstanding.
Okay.
All right, now, will you let me finish? That there was a misunderstanding, that the only issue you were concerned about was to do this, to do something about Pierce Drive. From the conversations we had with Mr. Hawthorne, it didn't look like that would accomplish what you wanted.
There was no
It
power
was-
application.
Wait.
Will you wait? Please?
I think we're ready to give you what you want. Just give us a second to figure out what you want.
I asked the question.
All right. Now, if you are concerned about a moratorium on this issue in general, that is a different question. It's a totally different question, and I think it's totally appropriate to meet with Dennis about drafting something, not expecting that it would do what your original request was.
How are we
That's a
going-
different thing.
How are we going to proceed? And I don't know why we keep putting the caveat on it with the understanding, it doesn't matter whether it applies to the Pierce Drive.
Yeah, I don't understand that
Let's
either.
forget about Pierce
Well,
Drive in this
that is
regard.
the impression that we were left with after you spoke last month, that you only were concerned about it if it would do something about Pierce
We all
Drive.
understand each other now, April.
Fine.
Let's move to the next.
And I don't see why it needs to go on.
So how do we proceed? I mean, what has to happen? I want some accountability and some commitment here to progress.
Right now, the process is that there is a new application, it is going to go...
No, that's not it. That's the issue. No, that's not the part.
How do we move to get a moratorium?
Close the public comment, let us do this, because we can deal with them.
Steve, we have a question.
We're willing to help, whatever we gotta do.
If we can conclude the discussion on this subject, but we will get together with immediately with our attorney Dennis Hawthorne and discuss a moratorium and how it will affect the future of towers in the community of Volney.
Isn't that what you told us at the last town board meeting?
At the last town board meeting,
You said
you were
you'd come
urged
Tuesday
to
to the update
attend,
meeting.
excuse me, at the last town board meeting, you were urged to attend a meeting of the zoning update committee.
To discuss moratorium.
And we were going to determine whether this was a public utility or not. Since then, we have received a communication from our lawyer stating that it is a public utility. And we must be governed by the rules and regulations as applies to public utilities, which basically says they can locate anywhere they want to.
At the zoning update meeting, Dennis Hawthorne said that the term public utility was basically just that, a term, and that communications towers can be regulated. Did he or did he not say that? Did he or did he not say that?
That they can be regulated?
Yes.
Yes, he did. Same time you got yours.
Well, since then, I talked with the state again. That's why I say I talked with this attorney, and he said to have Dennis, get with Dennis on this, and I don't know if Dennis got in touch with him or not. But before that, I talked to a Stan Polanski, which I mentioned at the update zoning meeting, where he stated that the Public Service Commission, to be a public utility, the Public Service Commission has jurisdiction over public utilities. They do not have jurisdiction over these communication towers. They file with the DEC, New York State. They do not file with the Public Service Commission. If you're a public utility, you have to file with the Public Service Commission. And in the same token, they go and get with the DEC to find out if there are any problems. And right now, I'm still waiting for a clarification on public utility through the attorney, but according to what I've been told, they are not. They can be restricted where they're going to go.
It doesn't matter whether, we don't really care if they're a public utility or if the next guy who comes in is a public utility.
John, I was doing this to get something in our update on our zoning, what is and what isn't public utility.
But even if it is or isn't, it can still be regulated. So, I mean, that's,
Well,
we're just looking for progress here. I don't think it's germane whether
There
they're
was
a
a
public.
misunderstanding, and there's no problem with looking into this if you realize that it probably won't affect Pierce Drive.
Can I be recognized? Listen, I was on the board when we did a moratorium, and Howard can verify it, Jess can verify it. It's a very simple procedure. I cannot believe there's so much dialogue over how to do it. If you have any questions of how to present a moratorium, Scott Chatfield is an expert in zoning and planning. He goes all around and teaches it. I called him and said to him, how do I propose a moratorium
to the town board in order to prevent any more constructions, and what we were debating at the time was a proposed trailer park coming in, because there was so many unregulated information that we were getting. I called him and said, what do I have to do? He said, basically, you just have to state why you want a moratorium, what is its purpose, and you have to give a time period of how long you want to have the moratorium.
That's what our...
But the key was you had to have a council person present it to the board. As a council person, I had that authority. I went through the steps, I followed the procedure, I brought the resolution to the board, it was discussed on the floor, and it was a proposal for a public hearing for a moratorium. Because at that time, Larry Rowley, and there was people...
You're not even listening to this lady. You guys are comparing notes. These three are passing notes. These two don't get to see them. You guys are whispering among yourself. This lady is recognized, and you're not paying attention to a word she's saying. What is wrong with you people?
I second it. I hope you watch this film so you can see how ridiculous
This entire procedure is, and how foolish you people look.
Okay, I'm really explaining it for the citizens, because I know these people never listen to anything. Anyway, the whole purpose of you give your purpose, you state your time, you present it as a resolution. Howard knows, we went through this, we got in a big debate, because I wanted it, Larry Raleigh was in the audience, they didn't want it, but there was enough people, pro and con, it was kind of an even thing, and it got voted down. It was a 3-2 against me, which I took very personally. However, it was done, and it was not a big procedure. It does not matter whether you're talking about cellular one, future, you're talking about a moratorium to stop something, to make a decision. That's all you're doing. You're not trying to prevent anything. You're saying, whoa, we don't have anything written in our zoning. Let's be intelligent. Let's stop and look at this. Okay, maybe they did file an application, but the reason they filed the application because they knew that this was going to be coming up, okay? And you have a responsibility to look at this. And I keep hearing you say, well, you want to stop cellular one. Now, let me just read the resolution that was read here last month. Whereas a group of Volney citizens have requested a moratorium on communication towers in the town of Volney until the Volney zoning ordinance is revised with regards to this issue. And whereas the Volney ordinance does not currently address towers of this nature, and where the town of Volney's ordinance is in the process of revised. Therefore, be it resolved that the Volney board approves this moratorium for a period of 4 months, it's all spelled out, just like it's supposed to be, or until the Volney zoning ordinance update on this issue is completed. It just gives you 4 months. They're asking you to stop things for 4 months to take a look at it. That's all they're asking you to do. They're not telling you to stop cellular towers, cellular one, and if it affects this one, so be it, and if it doesn't, so be it. But what they're asking you is to stop construction. And that's basically what a moratorium does. You people are making this so difficult, it's absolutely unbelievable. And if Dennis Hawthorne has got something to say, these people pay his wages. Bring him here and let them tell all the people.
Yes.
Charlie Smart, simple for the record. The reason that was voted down last week is because it could not be done last time without first holding the public hearing. It could not legally be voted on. Howard and Jess did vote for it illegally, and the others voted against it, but that was the reason given at the time.
But the others promised to look into it. Here we are again.
It was a proposal for a public hearing on a moratorium. That's what the motion was for.
Then they can vote on a hearing tonight, can't they, Mr. Smart? Nope, they can't do that either, I'm sure.
Move to close public comment, back into regular session.
Second.
Aye. This is, motion's on the table, it's been seconded.
Did you get that, Pat? Motion to close the public comment and return to
Regular, to new business.
new business. That will be our next resolution.
We're going to call the council.
I'm going to poll about over there.
That will be resolution number 93-101. Poll the council, please.
Aye.
No. people that still want to talk.
Aye.
No.
Well, I'll say aye.
All right, I have a motion. I have a motion. I move the town board meet with Dennis Hawthorne to draft moratorium regarding towers in town of Volney, public hearing to be held when legally possible. Second, I'll speak to it.
Second?
The objection and my concern right along has been the fact that the issues seem to be the towers in the Pierce Drive area. And the point now is that I firmly believe that we have constantly been misunderstanding each other. I am going to say that I didn't realize all of these things, and I believe that we can do this, but I want to meet with Dennis. I want to draft the moratorium. We're going to draft it properly. At such time as we can hold a public hearing, we'll call a special board meeting. My intent.
I will object to that motion in one respect, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
That motion is to draft a moratorium. I would like that, and I will vote against it unless it reads consider a moratorium.
If the intent of consider is to, after legal counsel approves or disapproves, if that's the intent, if the council says it's a legitimate action, if your intent is simply to give him that option, then I will consider that an editorial change and would not need a second. Is that your intent?
Yes.
I will
I do
change,
not,
I will change the motion. And that's an editorial change, so it's all written out, Pat, you don't have to worry about it. To consider.
will you read it again, please?
I move that the town board meet with Dennis Hawthorne to consider a moratorium regarding towers in the town of Volney, and a public hearing be held when legally possible. If, and I guess I have to then, if we're considering them, it's okay.
How about a time period?
What's the rest of that, Jim?
It's public, I move that the town board meet with Dennis Hawthorne to consider a moratorium regarding towers in the town of Volney, and and also consider a public hearing to be held when legally possible, assuming that he has said that the moratorium is something that we can legally do and should do. That's the intent. That's what,
we can't guarantee that till we've talked to Dennis.
Wait, you said that your attorney would take 2 weeks to do it. We can't tell. I don't know what the time frame is. We will meet with Dennis as soon as when do we want to meet with, when will we meet with Dennis?
Let us say within a 2-week period, Jim.
Yes. Within a 2-week period.
Would this be a public meeting, Mr. Ridgway, with the entire board and the lawyers, the public entitled to come to that meeting? To listen to the discussion?
You have a quorum.
I'm not sure if you're right. If we're talking about a possible, I don't know. It'll be public.
Public meeting.
It will be noticed.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Read that ordinance, please.
Okay. Motion is, I move the town board meet with Dennis Hawthorne to consider a moratorium regarding towers in the town of Volney and consider a public hearing to be held when legally possible. Meeting to be held within a 2-week period from today. Meeting with Dennis
Meeting with the
Hawthorne.
attorney.
Meeting with attorney to be held within.
It's been seconded. Any further discussion?
It's inserted there within 2 weeks.
Yes.
Meeting with attorney to be held within a 2-week period.
Pat, hold the council.
Aye.
I'd like to see a more aggressive action here, but it's the only progress we're making, so I'm gonna vote aye.
It is the appropriate action, Howard. Aye.
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 How about that, unanimous?
Is there any further public comment? Hearing none.
I have one last thing I would like to just make, an outline about, if I could. Okay, there's another issue coming before the voters of the whole county in August, and that's the water district issue. Now, I think I mentioned at our last meeting that we should have our legislator Bill Buck here to discuss this with us and let us know. I know he supports it, and Claudia supports it. I'm pretty sure I don't support it, but I'd like to hear all the angles to it. And I think it's appropriate that we have him here at our next meeting before this vote to discuss it with us. Other legislators are discussing it with their respective towns. And I'm going to make the request to him personally myself, because I know you have any success in that, Dave. And hopefully we can get him here at our next meeting.
Let us, I'm going to back up, we've gone out of order a little bit here. I'd like to make a motion that we return to public comment. This is just simply for the record, cosmetic. Claudia Smart seconds. Pat, will you poll the council?
Aye.
Councilman Rose,
Aye.
Councilman Smart,
Aye.
Councilman Warner,
Aye.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. We've already did public comment again. I'd like to announce future meetings. There will be a zoning update meeting June 17. Bill signing and agenda preparation July 6. Regular town board meeting July 8. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I so move.
Pat, will you poll the council?
Aye.
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 Aye.